you have any heroes of stock car racing before you started off yourself, Stu?
Well, obviously when I first started I used to go watching, and I had several heroes, the same as probably what fans have now, you know. I think one of my biggest heroes was Ellis Ford, but that's going back a long time. That's going back 12, 14, 15 years.
What's the life of a stock car racer? I don't mean literally, but I mean how long can a stock car racer carry on racing?
Well, we've had them as young as 16 and as old as 61.
So it's a sport which is spread out. You said it was a family sport. It's a family sport in more ways than one, obviously.
Oh yeah, I hope I'm still going when I'm 61 actually.
Right, so there's your answer, Paul. Thanks for coming on. Moving on now to Benny Leather from Prestwich. Not quite certain of the surname, Benny, but hello to you. Hello, Benny. We've lost Benny. Let's move on then to Phil Smith from Wythenshawe instead. Hello to you, Phil.
Hello.
What's your question?
Well, I've got two actually. I've got one for Stuart and one for Mike Parker. I'll ask Mike Parker first, if you don't mind.
Right, that's what they're here for.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Tom.
Don't you think that you promote a lot of tracks? You do Formula 1 and Formula 2. But don't you think your entrance fees are rather high compared to other tracks?
It's always a problem, Phil, but what we are bound with is economics. I'm got the problem. I have to deal with the people who own the stadiums. As you know, I don't own any stadium at all, and I have to pay rents for stadiums and rates and so forth. And there's a certain figure which we have to charge, otherwise we'd be out of business. It's as simple as that. I certainly am not making a fabulous profit, as a lot of people believe, but we have to get to an economic working figure, otherwise, quite honestly, we just go out of business. And if the stock car people think we are charging too much, they won't come, and we go out of business anyway. We try and give the public as much value as we can for money, and we've been in the business now 20 years, so we can't be too bad. We do our very best.
Well, Steve Bamford promotes stock cars at Bradford, and that's a rugby ground, and his entrance fees aren't half as high as yours. I'd personally say the racing is a lot more exciting there.
He must be very lucky, and he's on a lot less rental than me. I hope he is, but the problem we've always found in this business is I've been at stadiums for 10, 12, 14 years at some, and every year the rent goes up. So if in 10 years' time Stu is still charging the same, I'll be very surprised but highly delighted.
Okay, Phil, that's your answer to that one. Before we just go any further, Phil, I know you've got a question for Stu. Mike, the entrance costs, what sort of money are we actually talking about? What does it cost to watch stock car racing?
All our stadiums, it's £1.40 and 70 pence for children and old age pensioners. But if you take White City Stadium, Manchester, it's one of the finest stadiums in Britain. It's got covered accommodation for 10 or 15,000 people, with all due respects to any other stadium, the one they've just mentioned, which is a far better stadium, better facilities, and we have to pay for them to the stadium owners. They can't provide the stadium unless we pay for it, and I'm afraid we are bound to charge these in order to give them the rents and the costings they require. All our stadiums charge £140 and £70. That's at all the stadiums we offer.
And does that get you a seat, or is that standing up?
We have a lot of seats. There are seats for quite 2,000 or 3,000 people at White City, and the first come, first served. We do not charge any extra. Some tracks in the country charge £1.20 to go in, but they charge £1.60 and £1.70 for seats. We don't. If you want to go in the seat, or in the restaurant, or in the cafes, or the bars, wherever you want to go, the price is still the same.
Right, so there's your answer to that one, Phil, and I think really for, say, soccer fans, comparing it with First Division soccer, because this is what you're talking about, First Division stock car racing, I suppose really it's a fairly comparable price.
Well, I have two kids of my own, one's 18 and one's 15, and every time they want to go to the pictures or anywhere else, I give them £1 and say, bring the change back, and they start laughing. I've got to give them a £5 and hope I get some change back. It's if you go to the pictures these days, or anywhere else you go, you know the cost of things. Stock car racing is cheap. Wherever you go in this country, at £1.40 to see 40, 50 or 60 men throwing themselves around and risking their neck, and thousands pounds worth of equipment that they're turning out there, at £1.40 it is cheap. We know it's a lot of money for people to pay, but I'm afraid it can't be done much more economically.
£1.40, you still just about buy a gallon of petrol with that. So what's your question, Phil, for Stu?
Hello, Stuart. How do you fancy your chances for the Grand Prix and the World Final this year?
First of all, the World Final, well, we'll have to see about that, because the semi-finals haven't been run yet, and I think a lot depends on them. But providing I can get through the semi-finals fairly well, the World Final is at White City, Manchester, and I hope that I can start within the first 4 rows, and I reckon I should win it quite, not easily, but I'm fairly confident of a win. The Grand Prix series now, I was very confident about a month ago that I would actually win this series, because my car was set up great and I got everything all together. But at the last Coventry, I got pile driven into the fence, and it ruined my chances of being in the top 3 placings. But I've still not lost hope, because there's four rounds yet. There's one at Rochdale next week, one at Sheffield, and I think there's a couple more, and I'm still confident that I can pull it off, given the right amount of luck, and providing the other drivers don't win everything, of course, because as you must realise, it's on a point series.
Oh yeah.
And it's very, very close. But I'm keeping my hopes up anyway for the Grand Prix.
Quietly confident, I think we'd say there. Phil, thank you very much indeed, Phil, for coming on. And there's your answer from Stu. We've got another Phil coming up, and that's on line 6 from Heel Green. Hello to you, Phil.
Hi.
Hi.
2 questions, one for Stuart and one for Mike.
Well, fire away. Let's have the one for Stu first this time, eh?
Right. Hi, Stuart.
Hello.
You don't seem to use the bumper as much as you used to.
Is that a question or a statement? I think. Why does he not use the bumper as much? So I think that's the way you should put it, Phil.
That's it.
Yeah.
In my younger days, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, I probably used a lot of bumper, yeah. But these days, you don't have to use a lot of bumper to do the same amount of winning. I think the main thing now is that in the earlier days, when I used to use a lot of bumper and a lot of aggressive driving, the majority of drivers were going so much slower than what I was. I had to get by them. But now you've got a situation whereby probably 60-70% of the drivers are travelling at the same speed, and to put the bumper in at the same speed as what they're going at, it's just putting the bumper in isn't just a matter of ramming somebody out of the way. You've got to do it with a bit of finesse. Probably it's the wrong word, but that's the way I look at it. And it's a bit awkward when you've got like everybody going at the same speed. Maybe I don't put enough bumper in. I could probably put a lot more in if I wanted to, but I like to drive nice and steady these days and just pick a few wins up now and again.
I think your fans would like to see you put the bumper in a bit more.
They probably would, yeah. But they don't have to repair my car at weekends, do they?
It's good for you, they're repairing it.
Is it? Oh.
Okay then, Phil. Well, that's one question. What about the one for Mike?
Yeah. Last Saturday at Nelson, Frankie Wainman deliberately fenced after the flag a yellow top. I know he's a notorious yellow top, but pettiness on a football field usually starts with players arguing and fighting. To see a superstar deliberately fence a yellow top, surely somebody should do something about it.
Well, Phil, I didn't see this actual incident you talk about, but as far as I'm concerned, once the drivers start racing, I keep completely out of any control of the race or decisions. We employ a board of control steward who is in charge, board of control lap scorers, and if there's any disciplining of the drivers, the steward is entitled to discipline the driver. He can ban him from the meeting, he can take his license away, he can fine him. It's up to them to discipline drivers. I, as a promoter, will not interfere with any racing matter at all. I will look after the drivers in the pit area or anywhere else. But the minute they start racing, they come under the control of the steward, and he is the man responsible. You might be absolutely right, and this Frankie might want discipline, and he might have been disciplined. I'd have to check with the steward for that one.
You don't know whether he has or not?
I don't, quite frankly. I haven't had it reported to me that he's been fined. Whether the steward went to speak to Frank and warned him, I've not the slightest idea, but I will check on it for you, and if you contact me at the stadium, I'll tell you the result.
Okay, Phil, there's your answer. You can't get a better deal than that. And we're going to take a break, and after that we'll be talking once again to Stu Smith and to Mike Parker. Hilary Smith on line 1. I don't know if it's any relation or not at all, Stu. What's your question, Hilary?
I'd like to ask Stuart, he seems to have slowed down considerably over the last few years. I'd like to ask him if he thinks this is due to his age or not.
Oh, lovely question. Any relation at all, this Stu?
No.
No.
You should be, Hilary, asking questions like that.
So, actually, you reckon it's my age, do you?
Well, I thought that might have had something to do with it, yeah.
Well, I'm 32 now, and I started racing when I was 18.
No, you're 33 now.
Oh, how do you know?
Well, you are, aren't you? No.
No, I'm 32.
Oh, sorry.
I'm 33 in about 2 months, actually.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you get a bit older, all your reactions tend to slow down.
Well, they do, yeah, I appreciate that. Mm.
But I would like to think that a fella, when he gets to about 50, he starts to slow down. I think my reactions are just as good as what they've ever been. Probably a little bit better. But stock car racing's it's evolved now into a sport whereby, like a chap mentioned earlier on, you've got to use plenty of bumper and all that. It's not that way now. You can use plenty of bumper, but you've got to incorporate it with a little bit of skill and finesse. I think I've got all three qualities at the moment, and I'm still at the top of the tree, and I aim to stay there for a long time yet.
Yeah, very good. Nice to hear it. Thank you.
Okay then, Hilary, thanks for your question. Let's move on to line 7 from Bellevue. We've got Stuart Brereton. What's your question, Stuart?
Yeah, it's for Mike, actually.
Right.
I went across to Blackburn for his Grand Prix staging about a fortnight ago, and on the recommendation of the stock car supporter that said it was a thriller-minute track, and all the proceedings were over within 2 hours. Now I say, no wonder it's over within 2 hours if he has a total of about 35 cars at the track, which was the case this night. And in one race there was 8 cars. Now that is really ludicrous. There's 8 cars in a race, in a stock car race, which you know, if anybody who's been to stock cars, you know, would agree is pathetic. I'd like to know what he feels about this particular evening's meeting.
Stuart, I entirely agree with you. It would be silly of me to start arguing with you when there were 7 or 8 cars in a race. You're perfectly right. I wasn't happy about this meeting myself. We always get a dead duck now and again. I don't care which promoter it is, something goes wrong. 50-odd cars, as per the schedule, were booked in for this meeting, but as you saw, I think if I remember rightly, about 37 or 38 arrived at the meeting. You're absolutely right. It was not a stock car meeting as it should have been. We can only apologise to the public and say to you that you've been to many a stock car meeting in our stadiums that were way above the average, so you'll have to forgive us when we get the odd one like this.
If I could just make one more point about this meeting.
Yes, Stu.
The Mirror Master final at the end, where it's open to the top 24 drivers of the night. Now, you let a 25th driver in that night, Len Wolfenden, who hadn't scored a point all night, and he ended up sort of almost smashing Smithy's car to smithereens.
Well,
not quite, but almost.
No, you know, I was there. I saw his car afterwards.
You may be right. I didn't let him in. Now, I made this point before, and I'll have to make it again. I do not control the actual racing itself. That's controlled by a board of control steward. I heard about
supervision.
No, not under my supervision at all. He is in charge of the racing, and his decision is final. He tells me afterwards what he's done, and I can see what he's done. But his decision is final, not mine. My only decision is when it comes to a matter of the public safety. I will not interfere with the Board of Control. If he put Wolfenden in wrongly, it's he should not have done so. But I don't know on that. I'd have to check that one out myself.
Okay, Stuart. Well, there's your answer. Thank you very much for coming on, and a bit of a tough one there for you, Mike, that time. Line 8, Tony Wood from Audenshaw. What's your question, Tony?
I'd like to ask Stuart Smith a question.
Go on, then.
Do you not think, now, the use of this 454 Chevy engine, with the vast power output it's got compared with a normal V8, has created a kind of a race within a race situation concerning, like, the elite bunch of leading drivers?
Well, I can answer that very, very easily. I think there's, like I've said before, there must be 60% of the drivers on the track who are actually using these 454 Chevys. Obviously, maybe 90% of the top drivers are, but there's quite a few lower grades who are using them as well.
Yeah.
It's not just, you know, I mean, Chevys are the engine to have because they're reliable, they've got the power output and what have you. Dave Mellor, the current world champion, uses a Ford, which, you know, sort of kills that argument in one way, but I don't think, well, you know, what are you trying to get at? Are you trying to say that Chevys are killing the sport because of the expense?
No, I'm not saying it's killing it, but it seems to be that in the actual racing now, like the absolute elite bunch, that, you know, who've got these highly tuned 454s,
yeah,
they seem to be creating a race within a race situation. You know, like the lower grades, like we used to get the odd yellow top winning and, you know, blue, whereas now, Wayman, yourself, Wolfenden, once you get away, that seems to be, you know, the end of it, sort of thing.
I think basing that on the engine power is wrong, because a guy won 2 finals last weekend, I think, Bernard Poyser, and he has a 454 Chevy exactly the same as what I have, and he managed to win. I think what you're trying to say is that it's always the top superstars who seem to get away. Well, it's always been like that. Ever since I've started racing, there's always been a top 5 or 6 drivers who have been more successful than all the rest, and I think it always will be. It's mainly due to skill and experience. The reason why they're doing all the winning.
Not necessarily the engine that he's got, but the way that he uses the engine.
Correct.
Okay, Tony, there's your answer. Thank you very much for coming on. Moving on very quickly, we've got so many calls coming in tonight. Thank you very much indeed, you stock car lads. You certainly proved your point. The calls are coming in thick and fast. It sounds like it's more like a stock car phone-in. It's like a stock car meeting, isn't it, with them all bunching in and trying to push me out of the way. Line 2, Dave Dickinson, steward at Bellevue, it says here.
No.
I'm sorry, you've got a complaint about a steward at Bellevue or something, have you, Dave?
No. I'm the steward on Mike Parker's tracks.
Oh, are you?
Yes. I'm just answering the question which was asked a few minutes ago about Frankie Wayman, the incident at Nelson.
Oh, very good, Dave. Give us your answer then, please.
Frankie was fined £10, the maximum that I can fine, because I saw the incident. But in many cases, the steward doesn't see the incident concerned. Unless the driver lodges an official protest, there's nothing much that can be done about it.
I'm with you now. So you saw the incident, you imposed the fine.
That's correct. So I'm just answering that question.
Well, Stu just wants to say something here, Dave. Come in, Stu.
Could I just have a word with you, please? At the last Blackburn meeting, Led Woofenden this is the general term, stuffed me in the fence. And obviously you didn't see that. Well, when I return the compliment in the future meetings, will you look the other way, please?
You have to make sure that I'm not looking that direction, Stu.
No, make sure you're not, because I owe him one and he's going to get one.
This is lovely. This is getting tough now. Well, if you listen, Mr. Wolfenden, tonight, the number's 228-6262. You can make telephone contact, if nothing else. And it's all happening tonight. It's stock car racing that we're talking about tonight. Stu Smith is with me. Mike Parker's here as well. And on line 4, we've got the company of Jane Elkins of Stretford. Hello to you, Jane. Now, what's your question?
I want to know how long Stuart been racing for.
How long has he been racing for? Yeah. Oh, I think he's already sold us this early on in the programme.
How long have I been racing for? I think it's around about 14 years.
Oh, great.
Sounds a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a long time, Jane?
Yeah.
How old are you?
16.
Oh, well, he's been racing since you were 2. How about that?
Yeah, and I go to him every time he's racing.
You do? Good for you, Jane. Okay, love?
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Bye.
for coming on. Line 6 next is Yvonne Stoneland from Timperley. Hello to you, Yvonne.
Hello.
What's your question?
I'd like to ask Mike Parker, why did John Hillen stop racing at his tracks last year? And yet he started again this year?
Yvonne, you said, why did John Hillen not come to our tracks last year?
Yeah.
I've no idea, love. Every driver is entitled to go to any tracks he wants to go to. If John prefers to go to a Midland track when we are racing in the north, that's entirely up to John. He's entitled to do what he wishes.
But even when there was a solo meeting, he still didn't come.
Well, maybe he got something else to do, love. We can't control where the drivers go. I've no fallout with John. In fact, if you were at our last meeting, John was at Nelson last week. And he was at White City the one before that, so... In fact, we've seen quite a lot of John Hillen this year.
Yeah, he started coming again this season, though, and last season he wasn't there at all.
I think, quite frankly, John likes his tracks very smooth, and we've done the best to smooth ours out this year, and I think that's why we've seen a bit more of John.
Right.
Yvonne, before you go away, you're a typical stock car fan.
Yeah.
Where do you go to watch your stock car racing?
Well, we go all over. We've been to Sheffield, Bradford. We go to all Mike Parker tracks.
Thank you.
And you get around the country and you watch it, how often a week, during a week?
Nearly every meeting.
Nearly every meeting in a week?
Yeah.
And how many could that be?
Well, if you have a Sheffield, Blackburn and Bradford, and weekend meetings, it can be about 5.
And you enjoy it, obviously.
Yeah.
Right you are, Yvonne. Thank you very much for coming on. Robert Keeley from Sale Moor is on line 5. This may be our last caller because I don't think we're going to have much time for a lot more. What's your question, Robert?
I'd like to ask Stuart Smith, what does he think his best car has been?
Right.
I would say that the car I have now is definitely the best car I've ever had. Last year's car was very good, probably the best apart from this year's. But I think next year's car will be even better.
Now, what makes you say that? Do you rebuild the cars every year? Is it the same engine or the same parts? What happens? How do you actually get a good car each year?
I think you've got to build your car according to the track that you go to. And you build a car always with experience in mind from the previous cars. And this year's car has been a combination of all my past cars and you know, the way we look to the future.
And after a meeting, do you have to do a lot of repairs to a car?
Well, it depends. If you get a load of aggro, obviously sometimes we stop up all night. repairing the car for the day after. But usually, you know, maybe 2 or 3 hours a week will do it. Well, that's if you get no damage, you know, that's general maintenance.
How often do you actually race, Stu?
Oh, like the young fella said earlier on, probably 5-6 times a week some weeks. But an average week would be 3.
So at least 3 times a week?
Yeah, I would say 3 times a week, yeah, on
so
average.
It's a pretty full-time occupation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It really is. Lovely. No, I don't think we've got any more calls. We haven't, because we said we wouldn't take any more there, so we've stopped this precise time. So, it's time for you and I to talk a little bit more about stock car racing, Mike, because there is a meeting that everyone can go along to tomorrow night, very, very close to us.
Yes, this is a cracker. It's the Pride of the UK at White City tomorrow night, 7 o'clock start. Be there early, make sure you can get a seat. It should be a cracker of a meeting. I'm glad to say Stu will be with us tomorrow night. And I'm glad to say Len Wolfenden will be with us tomorrow night, Stu, so I'll have to make sure that the steward keeps his eye on you all night.
Just before we go, this Len Wolfenden thing, this wild wolf thing, it isn't as bad as it sounds, is it? You don't hate each other, do you? Really?
No.
Oh, yes, they do on the track. Not off.
Not off the track.
I think it's mainly rivalry because he's trying to prove that he's better than me, and there's no way he's better than me. I'm the best in the job, and I'm going to stay there for a long time yet. And this is what it's all about, rivalry, sheer rivalry. Off the track, we're the best of pals, and we always will be.
But on the track?
On the track, anything, well, not anything goes, but if you can get away with it, you do it.
Anything goes the steward can't see.
Right, there we are. Well, thank you very much indeed to the two of you. That was Stu Smith, the former Formula 1 stock car racing champion. He wants that back again this year. And Mike Parker, the top promoter in the country. I think I've enjoyed the programme. I've certainly enjoyed the stock car racing we've been talking about tonight. For me, Tom Terrell, time to say good night. Enjoy your stock car racing and enjoy the rest of your sport.